Welcome to the Sell My Business podcast. I'm your host, Jeffrey Feldberg. This podcast is brought to you by Deep Wealth and the 90-Day Deep Wealth Experience. Your liquidity event is the largest and most important financial transaction of your life. But unfortunately, up to 90% of liquidity events fail. Think about all that time, money, and effort wasted. Of the quote-unquote successful liquidity events, most business owners leave anywhere from 50% to over 100% of their deal value in the buyer's pocket and don't even know it. I should know. I said no to a 7-figure offer and yes to mastering the art and science of a liquidity event. 2 years later, I said yes to a different buyer with a 9-figure offer. Are you thinking about an exit or liquidity event? If you believe that you either don't have the time or you'll prepare closer to your liquidity event, think again. Don't become a statistic and make the fatal mistake of believing that the skills that built your business are the same ones for your liquidity event. After all, how can you master something you've never done before? Let the 90-Day Deep Wealth Experience and our 9-step roadmap of preparation help you capture the maximum value for your liquidity event. At the end of this episode, take a moment to hear from business owners just like you who went through the Deep Wealth Experience. Welcome to episode 87 of the Sell My Business podcast. It's become our annual tradition here with the Deep Wealth family where we share a very special message with you for the holidays. And this year is no exception. Justin Breen is back to share his wisdom and his insights. And you'll recall that Justin was on episode 77 of the Sell My Business podcast, an incredible individual who works with the top 0.01% of entrepreneurs. And Justin wrote a book, Epic Business: 30 Secrets to Build Your Business Exponentially and Give You the Freedom to Live the Life That You Want. What a title and what a way to position your life for success. So as we thought about the upcoming new year, and we thought about the holiday season when things typically slow down and you have time to think and to reflect and have what I like to call those magic moments, we thought, why not combine the two? So in this episode, Justin shares with us each one of the 30 secrets that he learned from the world's top 0.01% of entrepreneurs. And we'll do a deep dive on each one of them so that you can reflect, internalize, and master that particular strategy so that you can make the new year the best one ever. So with this in mind, you're in for a real treat. But before we get going, let me formally introduce Justin Breen. Justin Breen is the founder and CEO of Brepic Communications LLC, a public relations company that works exclusively with visionaries and exceptional businesses around the world. Although Brepic Communications is a public relations firm, Justin still considers himself a journalist, which is how he started out in his career. Justin is hardwired to seek out and create viral, thought-provoking stories that the media craves, and he finds the best stories when he networks with visionary entrepreneurs and executives who understand the value of investing in themselves and their businesses. In May 2020, Justin published his first book, Epic Business: 30 Secrets to Build Your Business Exponentially and Give You the Freedom to Live the Life You Want. The book details 30 lessons which he learned working with some of the top entrepreneurs in the world and outlines how he has applied their wisdom to his company. Justin attended the University of Illinois, where he received his Bachelor's of Science in News and Editorial Journalism. In 2020, his company was a winner of the Silver Trumpet Award from the Publicity Club of Chicago. Justin resides in the greater Chicago area with his wife, Sarah, and 2 children, Jake and Chase. Welcome to the Sell My Business podcast, and this is a very special edition that we're doing today. We're going to do a deep dive on terrific wisdom that you're not going to hear in other places, and you're certainly not going to hear it all combined into one place like you are right here, right now, with this very special guest that we have who's back on the Sell My Business podcast once again. Justin, so terrific to have you. Your first interview on the Sell My Business podcast was a runaway success, and just the wisdom that was pouring out of that was unbelievable. And that was really the genesis for today of taking all the wisdom that you distilled in your book, Epic Business: 30 Secrets to Build Your Business Exponentially and Give You the Freedom to Live the Life You Want. Before we go into these 30 nuggets of wisdom, what was the story behind the story of this book? How did it come to be?
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you. You're a super high level thinker. And I've been an entrepreneur for 4.5 years. So most of my days talking to people like you and oh, that's a good idea. I'll do that. That's a good idea. I'll do that. And I'm very low in ideation, meaning like I don't come up with a lot of good ideas, but if I hear a good one, then my top three strength finders are activate, maximize, achieve. So it'll be a result at the highest level. The impetus for the book, there was no intention to ever write a book. So the company's 30-month anniversary, I published a list of 30 things that I had learned in the first 30 months. And I think at the time I had 35,000 followers on social media. You got to write a book. It was pre-COVID, so people were printing out the list and bringing it to meetings. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a good idea. So signed with a top micro publisher in the United States. Chris Voss wrote Never Split the Difference, top business book in the last 20 years. He did the foreword, and international bestseller in 6 countries, #1 for entrepreneurship in the US. And each one of those things is a chapter in the book. So it's just result, no fluff. Here we go. That's how I did it.
And Justin, for our listeners, just to remind them, and we talked about this in our first interview together, the insights in this book, just to put this in perspective, you're not just working with anybody. You're working with 0.1% of the world's smartest, brightest, most successful entrepreneurs. Such a rich pool of wisdom that you're gleaning from. And that's really from what we were speaking about, where you were just looking at these best practices from these entrepreneurs and now putting them out in your book.
Yeah, again, I had zero business background, zero, before I started my first company. I didn't know I still don't know what an S Corp is. I didn't know you had to pay taxes 4 times a year. That's business owner stuff. I'm not a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm a really curious person. And so I just like to talk to really smart people. I was just listening today to a really interesting podcast about IQ, and 140 and above is genius level, and about 1% of the population is 140 and above. So I'm 139. And I'm actually glad I'm not 140 and above, because when you get to 140 and above, it's hard to communicate with humans. They're so smart. And if you laugh, but so it's MIT brain, and MIT brain is very hard to translate into human brain. But because I think I'm a 139 IQ, I'm like literally my brain is a bridge between Harvard, MIT, super genius, and then my brain can translate that to human, and then immediately connects Harvard genius, MIT genius. My brain, that's how it works. Yeah, it's really fascinating, because the really, I'm not talking like smart. I'm talking like high IQ people. There's a difference between smart and high IQ. The high IQ people, they have a real hard time communicating. They're just floating around.
Well, Justin, whether you're a 139 or genius or whatever you want to call it, we love you just the way you are, and we wouldn't change you for anything.
I wonder what yours is, by the way. I bet yours is, I don't know if you've ever taken it, but I'd be surprised. I mean, you're probably in the 140, high 130 range.
You're being very, very generous. Very generous. Yeah. Never taken it, don't know.
Right.
However, so listen, why don't we jump in there? What are these 30 strategies? So Justin, strategy number 1 that you talk about in your book, and by the way, I love how you just get right to the point in your titles for each chapter. And you say for strategy number 1, prioritize family time over work time. Sounds so simple, sounds so basic, prioritize family time over work time, but most people don't get it, and they just miss the boat altogether on this. So what's going on with this strategy?
This is fascinating, because sometimes I answer the questions before they're asked, but I'll give you a perfect example. I know a lot of, they're definitely over 140s, and they either don't have families or they let entrepreneur life destroy their family life. And my youngest brother was a 140. I was just talking to my mom today. I go, oh, what was my youngest brother? So he was a 146. So he was 29. He died of a drug overdose.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. At the time, I was a sports editor and producing a really great sports section. We had 3 teams in the boys basketball state finals. And so we produced this amazing section, and it was just great. And then my mom called me the next morning. She's like, hey, they found your brother in a hotel room. He's died of a drug overdose. My dad died when I was 13. And I can talk about that in more detail if you'd like. But I'll just never let entrepreneur life destroy my family life. I'm just not that person. Maybe if I was a 146 or higher IQ, I might be. But again, I'm just human in that IQ range. And I just won't let entrepreneur life destroy my family life. I won't do it.
You were smart before, you're even smarter now in saying that. And, I don't know one person that I've spoken to when they've perhaps been really ill, didn't know if they were going to make it or not, and they've come back. They weren't thinking of that meeting that they had on this day. They couldn't remember it. It was all about the time missed with the family. But let me ask you this. I know some listeners in the community may be saying, Justin and Jeffrey, yeah, sure, it's great that you're saying that. And I get that. But you know what? I'm still growing the business and we're in the early stages and I can't take that kind of time off. And my business really needs me there. What would you say to that person, Justin, who's thinking that?
Yeah, again, that's business owner question, not entrepreneur question. It's a fundamental difference. I'm not a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur. So the first line of my book after the prologue, and this is paraphrasing, but if you're someone who doesn't put your family first, put the book down, I can't help you. So I don't know, that's the end of the discussion. And I'm a simplifier. So I take all this complexity, how my brain works, I just take all this complexity and simplify it into patterns. This is one of my top simplifications. If I talk to someone, and because I talk to a lot of great people, and I immediately will know because I've seen the patterns. If I talk to someone and I realize that they're going to take time away from me and my family, I will never talk to that person again because they're just going to waste time. And I'm not going to waste time with someone who's going to take time away from my family. So that's really my litmus test. I'll talk to people like you all day because it's not wasting my time from my family. I gain a lot of value from having these conversations, a lot of connectivity. But if someone's not at that level or they're just going to waste my time, then I'm not wasting my time to talk to someone who's going to take time away from my family. It's as simple as that.
Justin, what's interesting, and for our listeners, what's really implicit in what you're saying, it's unspoken, but it's spoken. You value your time with your family. You're only putting so much time that you're going to make yourself available to do the work, and you're going to start this time and you have a hard stop, you're going to end this time. And really what you're saying is, hey, if someone's going to waste my most precious resource, time, we can make lots of money, but we can't make more time. So if someone's going to waste my most precious resource, time, I'm just going to cut them out altogether. And so for our listeners, think about all those people in your life, whether it be on the business side, on the personal side, who are just wasting your time, not adding value, maybe putting you into a negative state of mind and just taking your eye off the ball. Justin, I don't think you can say it any more simple than what you did, not to confuse simple with simplicity. You just cut those people out. You know, they don't add value to you. I'm not going to speak with them. I'm going to speak to people who add value. And that really gets back to one of the strategies that you're using to prioritize your family time over your work time. That's wonderful.
Well, thank you. Two, again, I'm a simplifier into patterns. So there's a couple things with that. So I've done my Clifton Strength Finders, Gallup, GALLUP Strength Finders. So I'm dead last in empathy, 34 out of 34, 33 out of 34 an includer. So it's easier for someone like me to do that. A lot of people who are high in empathy, they have problems cutting people out of their life. They have a lot of problems with that. But the bottom line is you're here on this planet for a certain amount of time. And that longevity it's getting longer and longer, but it's still a certain amount of time. And people who waste your time hang out with other people that waste your time. People like us hang out with other people like us. So when you hang out with people at a certain level, whatever level you want to be at, that's fine. I just only want to be with the 0.1% because I hang out with the 0.1%. The 0.1% hangs out with the 0.1%, and then they just keep introducing me to more 0.1%. So it eliminates all this cost, scarcity, transactional stuff that most people are dealing with. I just don't want to live in that world. I'll give you one more kind of anecdote. So I was talking to not a direct family member, but a family member. He's in the CPA banking space. And I was talking to him because in that space, it's folks that are the opposite of people like us. They created these structures to slow people like us down. And so I texted him. I'm like, hey, it's incredible to me how many people like this take time away from visionaries who are actually trying to do something big. And then he wrote back, that is how the real world works. I go, not my world. That's not my world. So my point is, if you're annoyed with how parts of the world work, just create your own world, create your own economy. I mean, that's literally what I've done with first company and then the second one, just created my own economy because I was annoyed with how the other economy was working.
I love that. And as we say in business all the time, if you can't be number one in a particular category, create a new category that you can be number one. You know, there's a saying that birds of a feather flock together. And really, Justin, that's what you're saying. If you want to be around people who are limited in their vision, limited in their thinking, you hang around them enough, you're going to have that pass on to you that maybe you're going to become limited in your thinking, limited in your vision.
Limiters, they create limits and limitations. And again, this is why I like talking to you. So I name my years. One of my friends, partners, clients, Joe Martin, he names his years. So I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I'll do that. So 2020 was global growth. This year, 2021 is no limits. By the way, 2022 is epic life, which will probably be the title of my second book, which I'm starting to write as my new company takes off. So yeah, this year's no limits. So when you say no limits, it eliminates people with limits and limitations. That's like talking to myself here. It's funny.
It's terrific. And when you talk about no limits, that really ties nicely into your second strategy. And again, all of this sounds so simple on paper. It's not easy to execute. But it's so spot on. And you say for strategy number 2, do what you love to do and what you do best. And I have so many thoughts are rushing through my mind as I think about that. But give us the genesis, Justin, of what's behind that and where that came from for you.
Yeah, so we're the 0.1%. So out of 1,000 people, maybe there's one person like us. So because of that, we're surrounded by scarcity. We're surrounded by people with limits. So usually people like us are aliens within our own family, community, and verticals. Nobody understands us except people like us. So when you're surrounded with people who aren't like us, and most of societies like that, you feel like an alien. So in terms of that, I've never fit into whatever normal society is. So I always felt very different. And a couple of years ago, I joined Strategic Coach, which I'm very confident, top entrepreneurial group in the world. Very confident saying the co-founder, Dan Sullivan, is the top entrepreneurial coach. I'm very confident saying that. And the premise of that program is unique ability, or one of that, but unique ability. And that's basically what you're really good at and what you really like to do, and just focusing your whole life on that. Oh, that's a good idea. I'll do that. I just spend my entire day either with my family or friends or in my zone of genius, unique ability. There's no deviation from that. And my unique ability zone of genius is the purpose of my life is to be a connecting superhero for every visionary, abundance, investment, mindset entrepreneur, 0.1%, and share their stories with the world. So that's it.
You're so spot on with that, Justin. Look, my personal thesis is every single person born has a superpower, but we don't know what it is. And it's really up to us, number one, find out what that superpower is. And then once we know what that is, we can then take that gift and share it with the world. And so you're doing that as this world-class connector and doing all these amazing things. And so for our listeners out there, here's really what Justin is saying, and it's, as usual, spot on. Conventional wisdom is conventionally wrong because conventional wisdom says, hey, Jeffrey, you did this okay, but you didn't do this so good. Why don't you focus on what you didn't do so well? And maybe make that better and just focus on your weakness instead of your strength. And you feel lousy doing that, and it's really not where you should be, but that's what you're being told to do. And that's just how the socialized system works. Justin, you're saying, hey, throw that out the window. Do what makes you feel great. Do what you're strong in. And when you do that, when you do what you love to do, when you do what you do best, that's where the magic happens. And again, it sounds so simple, but easier said than done.
Well, again, it's simple, but it's hard because most people aren't the 0.1%. You're either born someone like us or you're not. I'm very convinced of that because most people would choose this life. If they could spend as much time with their family, friends, make as much money as you want to, only be in your unique ability, most people would choose that. But I think we talked about this last time. I haven't met one entrepreneur at the highest level, like the 0.1% that hasn't overcome at least one of the following 4 things. Most are 2 or 3, and all 4 ones are really successful. So this is entrepreneur life. This is what entrepreneur life is. So the 4 things, 1 is bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy. 2 is depression. 3 is the highest level of anxiety you can imagine. And 4, likely and or possible traumatic experience as a child or young adult. So almost every time I do this, the person I'm talking to is check, check, check. Sometimes it's all 4 checks, but I don't think you can understand being up here unless you're down here first. I haven't seen the exception to that. I haven't seen it. But most people use those 4 things as excuses their whole life. Entrepreneur at the highest level, the 0.1%, figure it out. No excuses, just execute, get it done. So these things are simple. It's just really hard because those 4 things, people use those as excuses instead of using them as fuel.
You're absolutely right. And Justin, I want to go back to really one of the first things that we spoke about, strategy number 1, and that is focusing on who is in your life. Because another saying that's out there, take a look at the 5 people that you spend the most time with. You are the average of those 5 people. Who you're including in your life, what your philosophy is going to be, what you're doing, more importantly, what you're not doing, all that ties together. And it's actually a really good segue for your 3rd strategy. And your 3rd strategy is work with people who view partnerships as investments, not costs. And I love that. So what's behind that? Why don't you give us a little bit of the behind the scenes with that?
Yeah, that's a good one. It's interesting because people who have read the book, almost without exception, for me, the number one thing from writing the book was do what I like to do and what I'm good at. The number one takeaway from almost anyone who's read the book is that what you just said. Only they're like, oh, wow, that's a really good point. Only work with people who look at things as investments, not costs. So again, I'm dead last in empathy, second to last in includer. So if someone asks, what do you cost? I will never talk to that person again because they're living in transactional scarcity world. They're just living in cost world. In cost world, people hang out with cost world. People like us, we hang out with investment, live in abundance world. And so it's really interesting because, again, right about the time I joined Strategic Coach, so 2 years into my company, first 2 years, there were a lot of what do you cost or charge people. But at the 2 year mark, I started hearing more, what is an investment would you look like? Oh, I'm happy to make this investment. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's a good idea. Investment. And it's just one word, investment versus cost, but really it's everything. Because someone who looks at things as an investment, they look at growth. Like you invest in the stock market or invest in employees. It's an investment. It's not a cost. People that look at things as cost, it's something that you can replace or get rid of. And so I just don't partner with people that would want to replace what my firm does or get rid of it. I only partner with people that look at things as this is a good investment in my company and my branding and my connectivity. So it just eliminates, again, the overwhelming majority of the population. But that's okay because the people I hang out with, they're the ones that actually create the ideas and companies and technologies that employ everyone else, that actually change the world. So investment versus cost is number one in terms of what people have said about the book.
And you're right to say the one word, cost versus investment. It's a world of difference. And again, it all goes back to the people that you spend the most time with, how they think, what they do, the words that they choose, how they live their life. That all goes back to what's going to be rubbing off on you, what you're going to become, what you're not going to become. And it just is this one big interplay. And that even goes into the fourth strategy. And I love how you say this when you say for the fourth strategy, your clients become your friends and your friends become your clients. Wow, how poetic in the title, but how true it is, because Justin, who wants to do business with a stranger compared to doing business with a friend? So walk us through the fourth strategy and your experience with that and your overall thoughts of why you put that into the book.
One, because that's just what's happened. And two, all of my best friends, my good friends, with the exception of my wife, who's not an entrepreneur, she's a stabilizer, thank God. But all of them are entrepreneurs at a very high, to the highest level, that would never let entrepreneur life destroy their family life. And so when you have those commonalities, the natural byproduct of that is a business partnership. When you have the same mindset and values about family and the way to live life through business and connectivity and global growth and investments, then why wouldn't you partner with somebody like that? But people just lead with the people that lead with what do you cost or charge, they're not living in that world. They're just not. And I've just found all of my friends now, it's really interesting because I've been an entrepreneur for 4.5 years and I've lost friends when I started the first company, but I've gained newer ones. And almost all of them are through Strategic Coach, again, top entrepreneurial group in the world. And then Abundance 360, that's another group I'm in, really high level geniuses, innovators. And it's just really because we have the commonalities and that leads to friendship. And many times that leads to a business partnership. But that's the byproduct of the first thing. It's a byproduct.
It's just amazing. You're building your strengths off of people who are smart. They think like you. Maybe your strengths are different than their strengths.
They're collaborative strengths. That's exactly what it is. I don't want to over fact find this, but we're both pretty high fact finders in Colby, and we're both very low implementers, like building with our hands or whatever. And my brain is very collaborative. You're an 8 quick start. I'm a 7, but my brain is very collaborative with 8, 9, and 10 quick starts where they're idea. And then they have low follow through. So they have to hire 1 million people. Otherwise, nothing will get done. My brain strength is very collaborative with all these ideator futurists, can immediately simplify, because my brain turns everything to patterns, simplify their messaging, and then it's just connect. And they're so thankful for me. And I'm so thankful for them because they're the ones that are living off an idea of future land, and they'll actually do something about it. They'll actually make the investment. So without those people, the world doesn't change. And my brain simplifies their complexity and then immediately activates the right connection. It just works.
You're absolutely right. And one of the things I find why that works is trust. Business is all about trust. So when you're friends with your clients and your clients become your friends and your friends become your clients, there's an unspoken level of trust. You know what, I'm going to call Justin. He's going to be able to get this done for me. I have this problem. He can help me out with it. Or maybe he knows someone who can help out. And this inner circle has been called different things over different periods of time. An outdated, politically incorrect term used to be the old boys network. Maybe now it's the inner circle or whatever you want to call it. The principle really is the same. It's friends that are working with friends to get things done, make the world a better place, grow the business, make things happen. And that's just where it becomes so special. So for our listeners, the strategies are building one off of the other, but really surround yourself with quality people. And some of those people are going to be from your clients, and those clients are going to become friends. And some of your friends are going to become clients, but you're thinking alike and have just a positive synergy with each other that you're getting things done.
Thinking alike and growing together. That's the positive synergy. The positive synergy leads to growth together, abundant growth for both of you.
That's the key. Justin, we spoke about this in the last interview, and I think it's worth mentioning in this one. It's abundance. It's not scarcity. So it doesn't have to be zero sum. You win, I lose, I win, you lose. We can both win. And there's still way more abundance for everyone else as well. So it really can be a win-win.
At this level, everybody wins. My strength finders activate, maximize, achieve. 4 is competition, 5 is responsibility. So result. And 6 is self-assurance, by the way. That's very rare in entrepreneur world. But 4 is competition. There is no competition at this level. There's none. I'm not competing with anyone. It's all collaboration. And I'm a very competitive person, but there's no competition anymore. It's only collaborating with people that get it at the very highest level. And there's zero sum. It's all everybody wins at this level. And the result of that is that society wins. That's how society wins.
And it really goes back to what being an entrepreneur is all about. And this goes back to finding things that you're passionate about. You find a really painful problem that you're so passionate to solve. You're world class in it. You're tapping into your superpowers. You're taking that to the world. You're connecting with clients who become friends, who become clients. And we just get it done. As entrepreneurs, as business owners, we make the world go round. We get things done. We solve problems, and we really make the world a better place.
I'm just so grateful for people like you, because you're like me, evolved. You've been doing this longer. And then I just listen to people like you filled with endless wisdom. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, I'll do that. And then I hear not necessarily people like you, but people who have been frustrated with certain things as part of entrepreneur life or business owner, and they're complaining about them. Like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Okay, they're complaining about that. I'm not going to do that. Complaining about that. So I just listen to people with really good ideas, and then, oh, I'll do that. And then, or people complaining about things that actually don't matter. I'm like, I'm not going to be like that. I'm just learning from people like you.
And you're paying it forward. You are having access to such an elite group of thinkers and successful people and business owners that got it. And now you can take that and pay it forward is huge. And it's just a tremendous way of giving back. Some of the listeners, you may be thinking, this is all good, but you know what? Maybe these strategies are pie in the sky. It's all dreamy. It's not realistic. Justin, you bring us back down to earth, because for your next strategy number 5, and this is where your feet are clearly on the ground. You say when you start a business, it takes 2 full years to really figure things out, as opposed to what we hear, oh, just start a business today and you'll sell it tomorrow for $1 gazillion and life is great. So what's going on? Because I know you've gone through this as a business owner. You've spoken to the business owners who went through those 4 challenges. So 2 full years to figure things out. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I talked to a lot of people like you, and they're like, wow, it only took you 2 years. It actually took me 5 or 10. So again, most people can't overcome those 4 things. So they use those excuses and then they fizzle out. That's why most people can't do it. But because I'm high quick start and high follow through and very low on ideation, if I see something good, I'll activate, maximize, achieve. So 2 years might even be faster. But the point of that is, again, I had zero business background when I started my first company. Zero, less than zero, really. Negative entrepreneur understanding. And again, I simplify into patterns. So when you start a company, you get to get. So when I started my first company, I reached out to 5,000 people to get 5 clients. 1 out of 1,000 said yes. So 0.1%. A different 0.1% than the 0.1% I partner with now, but still 0.1% said yes. So that's start. You get to get. Then you start to give to get. So you're giving a little bit, but you're mostly getting. So then you get to give. Then you get to give. So you're giving a lot more to get a little bit. Then you get to the point where I'm at, where you give to give, but only to the people who get it. So I give endlessly, but only for the people who actually understand what I'm talking about, because otherwise it's a waste of time. They're never going to do anything with that information or knowledge or connections. And so my point is, it took me 2 years to figure out I give to the people who get it. It took me 2 years. And maybe that's fast for most people, but most people, like you were saying, they're like, oh, I'm just going to start a company and success. And knock on wood, my first business has always been profitable, but really it's a 2-year market. everything started to flow together. I started to meet the right types of people. The process really flowed, but it took 2 full years, not 6 months, not a year, certainly not 3 months. It just takes time.
And Justin, what's really interesting about that, and for our listeners, we talked about this in our first podcast interview, Justin, which, by the way, I'll put in the show notes so people can link out to that and hear that. But for our listeners, I don't know if you picked up on this, Justin called 5,000 people. So for every 1,000 people that he called, he got one.
Yeah, this is a funny story. I might actually include this in the next book, but so both of my sons play travel soccer. They're 7 and 9. So I was talking to one of my 7-year-old's teammates, and he was being lazy on the soccer field. I go, there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for that. Because you make excuses as a 7-year-old, you're going to make excuses your whole life. So I was telling him, like, oh, guess how many people I reached out to find my company's first 5 clients. And he goes, 20? I started laughing. I go, 5,000. And his jaw dropped like almost cartoonish. Because most people, they just can't even fathom. The worst day of my professional life, which was also the best day, is when my job salary got cut in half. I couldn't find a job. So that's why I incorporated my first company. That's not even in the top 50 worst days of being an entrepreneur. So most people, they can't deal with those 4 things. So that's just entrepreneur life. You get to the point I'm at, everything's great now. You're going to go through those 4 things as an entrepreneur. For sure.
So you're calling for every one client, you had to call 1,000 people. But strategy number 2, you're doing what you love to do and what you're good at. And had you not had that passion to do that, if you weren't good at it, there wouldn't have been a company. You would not have gotten through those tough times. And so the strategies that we're going through, they're all iterative. One builds off the other. But it really is true that if you don't love doing what you're doing, it's really over before it's begun.
And to dovetail that, when I first started, I was doing many more things than what my first company does now because I didn't know. So I was willing to reach out to 5,000 people for 5 clients. I was doing all these other things because I needed to learn what I wasn't good at and didn't like to do before. And so that's my whole unique ability now. And then I created a second company that's just technology for that. You just double down. But I didn't know what to even double down on when I first started. I was getting to get, just like that pattern.
And what's interesting, and this ties into strategy number 6, is you're going through that process, you began to accumulate success. Even before the end of the 2 years, you didn't know it yet. Well, most people don't realize, and strategy 6 really protects you against this. Within success are the seeds of your failure. And it sounds so crazy. People say, Jeffrey, what are you talking about? How can my success lead to failure? Because you're not doing strategy number 6. Strategy number 6, never stop learning. And for how many people we become successful, okay, life is good. I don't have to try anymore. I don't have to experiment anymore. I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing. Nothing's going to change and everything changes. So never stop learning, Justin. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, most of my days talking to people like you. And, oh, that's a good idea. I'll do that. So that's endless learning. I just finished Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust. And then he wrote about that. And then that's what I like. I don't really care about business stuff. I just like to learn about that stuff. Man's Search for Meaning, I'll simplify it. It's like the prisoner who had lost faith in his future was dead. So whether you're in a concentration camp, he was, the prisoners that lost faith in the future, they would die the next day. And I have found that entrepreneurs, without looking at a bigger and better future or trying to learn something new, even if they have money, they just fizzle away. Like retirement to me is death. I will never retire because retirement is retirement from learning. I'll never be like that. I'll never be that person. And again, like you said, this is a building block I'm building. But when you just surround yourself with people that don't think like that, where they want to keep building and growing, retirement isn't even talked about. It doesn't even exist. You just want to learn, keep learning and collaborate with cooler and cooler people.
Absolutely. And particularly in business. And if we're really honest about it, from the vantage point of our clients, we may have saved the day in the past and perhaps we've done some terrific things, but we're only as good as what we've done today. Yesterday's done, is finished with, and tomorrow isn't here yet. And so as business owners, if we're not adapting, if we're not changing, if we're not learning new things of how we're going to create more value and pass that forward and give that away, how in the world are we going to grow the business? And so never stop learning is powerful. And if people, Justin, if they were questioning who they should be associating with, I think strategy number 7 really says it all, because your network equals your net worth. Wow. So think about that. The 5 people that you spend the most time with, of those 5 people that you spend the most time with, Who are they and how are they contributing to your net worth? Justin, what's going on here with number 7, your network equals your net worth?
Again, there was no intent to write this book at all. I published that list on October 16th, 2019. The book came out in May of 2020. And the newest company I just launched this year is called Brepic Network. I wrote this and wrote that list before I even came up with this idea to create a new company, which Brepic Network is just technology for my brain. It's just a high price point, invite only connectivity platform. That's really what it is. Sometimes it's weird listening to that because I wrote that 2 years ago. And now here I am having a company that's based on that exact principle. And the new company will just be 100, 1,000x of what my PR firm already does. It's just technology platform for that. So that's everything. The new company, it's LinkedIn without the BS. And I like LinkedIn. I have 27,000 followers on LinkedIn. So there's about 700 million users on LinkedIn. And I partner with the 0.1%. So most people think that's a small number, but no. 0.1% of 700 million is 700,000. And the 700,000s of us's are the ones that, they're the ones that create LinkedIn. So it's going to be exciting to have the 0.1% of 700 million in a network like that. I'm like endlessly excited about that because that will just create more and more incredible collaborations and partnerships and all that other stuff. It's just doubling down of my unique ability, zone genius in a platform technology. That's literally all it is. It's amazing.
And what's interesting, Justin, is you really eating what you're baking. You've never stopped learning. And you're applying it along the way.
So it's simple and most people won't do it. I will just do it. Oh, good idea. I'll do that. So I'm going to say the same thing over and over. I just apply it to myself. I'm just doing what I'm saying. And again, these ideas didn't come from me for the most part. Some of them did, but for the most part, it came from somebody else. And then I just did it. And then I just keep doing it and keep doubling down. That's where people lose it, is they can't be consistent with it. And I just can't. I just do it.
And you're consistent all the way through, and you're particularly consistent with strategy number 8. And before I share with the audience what strategy number 8 is, it really gets to the heart of success. And that is how you view yourself and what you think about yourself. And so for strategy number 8, Justin, I love how you say it. If you think of yourself as nickel and dime, you will always be nickel and dime. Instead, choose to value yourself. What tremendous advice. Why don't you give us the behind the story of that one?
I knew this was going to be a good interview. It's even better than I thought it would be. It's like crazy because we're talking in the past, but in the future, in the present. Because I'll be curious to listen to this in 3 or 4 years as the new company and what that leads to. I just did my 10-year vision to have basically mostly free days where I'm just learning, and then create a foundation to help younger entrepreneurs, and then be a coach within Strategic Coach. So I would be a coach within the program that I love so much. So all this new company does is allow that. And I think a lot of that boils down because I value myself and then value the right people that I hang out with. And again, my strength finders, I'm 6th in self-assurance. A lot of entrepreneurs are very low in self-assurance. So they have imposter syndrome. I don't. I'm very confident and I know who I am. I know who I'm not. And because I value myself and continue to raise exponentially, it just eliminates cost transactional scarcity people. It just eliminates them. And then it attracts abundance visionary investment people. And abundance visionary investment people, they're attracted to people that are abundant visionary investment and value themselves. People that value themselves are attracted to people that value themselves. And people that don't value themselves are trying to nickel and dime their way through life. They resent people like us. They resent it because they're envious. They're envious of that, and they're not going to do what it takes to not be someone like that. Again, it all comes together. It just eliminates the people that live in transactional cost world.
What's so amazing, and it's also going to tie into strategy 9, but before we get there, when you value yourself, look at how this builds off of the previous 7 strategies. You limit your time in the business so you can prioritize your time with the family, but that means you better make it count in the business. You better value yourself correctly so you're able to do that. And then you're doing what you love to do. So your work is play, your play is work. You're working with people who really look as partnerships as investments and not costs. Again, that all goes back to value. And the birds of a feather flock together. Your clients become your friends, become your clients, and they value value, you value value. So you're really talking the same language now.
Well, let me tell you something, because this is unbelievable, because again, always learn, right? So inside baseball here, the only chapter that like this list wasn't like, oh, this must come first, this must come second. The only one that I knew had to come first was the family thing, because without family, none of this stuff matters. It just doesn't. But you've literally, this is what I mean about learning. You've created the ladder foundation for the chapters that actually make sense to me. There was no sequential reasoning behind the orders of the chapter except family first. But you've actually simplified it in this interview.
Well, Justin, I think it was that genius part of you that was just communicating with the rest of your brain that had you subconsciously lay it out like this. That's the only explanation here, because you just nailed it in terms of foundational strategies, one on top of the other.
Wow. Thank you. But you're doing for me what I usually do for others. That's pretty amazing to me.
Thank you. Let's keep on rolling, because we're warming up here. It's a lot of fun. And, strategy 9 to me really brings it together. And it goes also back to eliminating that imposter syndrome, because part of that imposter syndrome for most entrepreneurs, I can't charge enough. No one's going to buy it. I don't think I'm good enough to get that. But you blow the doors open. In strategy number 9, you're saying raising your rates earns you respect from the people and clients that matter the most. Wow, such few words that really say it all.
Yeah. Again, eliminate nonsense to attract greatness. You eliminate nonsense, you create the greatest collaborative network of visionaries. And it ties into the investment cost. When I kept raising my rate, again, the same person who texted me, that's how most of the world works. And I texted back, not my world. When I started raising my rates exponentially in 2 years into it, he actually laughed at me. I laughs because he doesn't understand. I'm like, I'm not talking to people like you. And I raised my rates again this year, and I'm raising them again in 2022. Why? Because all that does is when you raise your rates exponentially, it just attracts higher level and higher level visionaries. And visionaries will make the investment, not a cost. They'll make the investment to get connected and be in the right media. They will make the investment to do that. And it was really interesting too, because as the rates kept increasing, at first it was less clients overall, but they were investing more. So it was far more profit, which again, most people care about that. So it was more profit with less work. And then those people would introduce you to people that will invest more. So then it created far more profit. So I raised my rates again. So less clients at first, but far more profit. And then those people would introduce you to more people like that. So it's the same cycle. Less clients, more profit, then leads to more profit, more clients, raise rates again, less clients, more profit. So that's the system. That's the process. I'll just keep raising my rates. Just keep raising investment rates because it's just the same formula. I see the pattern.
And you could do that because you believed in yourself. You know the value that you're offering.
100%. Yeah. Again, there's no imposter syndrome here. I know the value. That's why I keep raising my rates, because I know the value far exceeds what the investment is. And the investment, it's not cheap by any means, but it's far greater value for this type of connectivity.
And for all those business owners that are listening out there, if you keep on winning the business again and again all the time, you know what? Maybe it's time to take a step back and just ask yourself, am I charging too little?
You're a genius. So the first question is, am I spending enough time with my family? If the answer is no, then you raise your rates exponentially, because that'll be overall clients far more profit and you spend more time with your family.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Absolutely. Because you raise your rates, you have fewer clients, you're now more focused. You're going to be producing a higher quality of work, and you're going to have more time to spend with your family. So one really reinforces the other, and they just play off each other so beautifully. And really, that ties nicely into strategy number 10. And in strategy number 10, you take a concept and you sew it together in such a beautiful way. You say visionary entrepreneurs are often the best, kindest, most giving folks out there.
You're just like you, man. They're all like you, man. You're like the nicest person. I mean, dude, they're all like you. You're just a great guy. You're constantly introing me to great people. You're very well connected. You reached out to me to do this awesome, lengthy interview to do another one. They're all like you, because people like you, they've already changed their world. Their world stuff's done. You've done that. Now you're changing the world, and you're just collaborating, and you're giving to give to the people who get it. Here's the thing is most people don't understand this because they're making excuses instead of investment. And then they're envious of people that will do what it takes to get to this level. And so instead of doing what it takes to get to this level, they're taking it out on people that will do what it takes. But that's what I mean. The people that get to your level, they're just the nicest, kindest people. They create foundations, scholarships to help people. That's what I'm doing within 10 years, create a big foundation to help younger entrepreneurs. That's what my new company is. It's just a vehicle to do that. That's what I mean. Like most people, they think entrepreneurs are these greedy. It's the opposite of what most people think entrepreneurs are. That's what entrepreneurs like you actually are. They're just kind, generous souls that want to change the world, not the. Fundamental difference.
Well, and Justin, you've been there, I've been there. When you get dragged through the trenches and it's your passion that gets you through it, it makes you really take a look at things a little bit differently and look at the world differently, how you can help people and what you can really do to make a difference. And really, for our listeners, every one of you, you have greatness inside of you, but is locked away. And so it goes back to some of the earlier strategies that we talked about. Who are you going to be spending the most time with? Are you spending time with entrepreneurs who are visionary and they have value? They value you, they value themselves, they value their family time. When you're in that kind of environment, it's the perfect storm to bring the best out of you. And Justin, I know you've seen that firsthand with what you've been doing and the kinds of clients and entrepreneurs and really game changers of people that you're working with.
When you start a company with zero business background, you reach out to 5,000 people to find first clients. So your first 5 clients, you're rejected 4,995 times. So you better have pretty high self-confidence, self-assurance to get through that. That was just to get the company started. Again, the worst day of my professional career, not even top 50 worst entrepreneur day. But if you can get through that, then you get to this place. And then because you've gotten through that, you want to help other people get through that. That's what my book is to help people get through that and to understand what they're going to be without exception. I haven't met the exception to it, and I've talked to thousands of you over the last 4+ years. And then as a journalist, 20+ years of doing 2 to 3 stories on deadline every day. So that's a lot of people. I haven't met the exception to those 4 things that hasn't overcome at least one. So this is what you're going to go through. So you either can do it or you'll make an excuse. So I'm only talking to people that will do whatever it takes.
And speaking of doing whatever it takes, it's really a nice segue into strategy number 11. And Justin, I have to share with you, when I read strategy 11, it spoke to me because you're being vulnerable. You talk about how you're actually writing the chapter in the Miami airport, and it's December 2019. And I don't want to give the whole story away. I'll tell the audience what the strategy is, and then we'd love to hear a little bit behind that. But you're really talking about something that gets to mental health. You're talking about something that can make the difference of just getting through the challenging times or not. And for strategy number 11, if you're having a bad day, week, or month, tell someone. And again, as simple as it sounds, how many of us just don't ask for help? We're quick to give help, but we find it hard to ask for help. And here you are, you're telling the world, hey, tell somebody if you're having a bad day, week, or month, ask for help, tell someone. So what was going on with that and where that was coming from?
Yeah, end of 2018, all these amazing things. My wife and I had just been on the Today Show. That was interesting. So company's profit from that year, I don't know, I think it quadrupled any amount of money I'd ever made as a journalist. Family was great. And so all these amazing things were happening. I'd never been more miserable in my life. Never. So that doesn't make sense. All this money, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. So I'm like, okay, I better talk to someone about that. Talk to my wife heavily, who's like literally the nicest, kindest person. She'd be 1 on empathy and probably 2 on includer. So the opposite of me. And then started seeing a therapist once a week to talk about those 4 things: depression, anxiety. I never had to worry about bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy, thank goodness. But then likely and or possible traumatic experience as a child or young adult, death of father, death of youngest brother, those would qualify as those. Reached out to a mentor, and he, again, I will do something if somebody says something. So he's every entrepreneur I've ever met has gone through what you're going through, but it's how you learn from this and realize it's going to happen again. But then, okay, entrepreneur life, it'll be all right. I will go through something like that again, but it's just learning, that's just entrepreneur life. It'll be fine. I just hadn't experienced what entrepreneur life had been through 2 full years yet. And so I had to learn how that felt, then talk to people about it, and then realize it's okay. That's just entrepreneur life. And then, okay, it'll be okay. So I've learned from that.
For our listeners, I don't care what anybody says. There are no self-made people. I know the media portrays that, and you see that in books and the movies and all those other areas, but no one is an island unto him or herself. It takes people helping people to get you there. To try and do it on your own,
my first company, I have some freelancers and website person, financial person, but like newest company, there's no way. So I have a business partner, we're a whole collaborative team. Can't do that on my own. It's impossible. And I wouldn't want to even try to do something like that on my own, but that's how you evolve. You can't get to levels you've gotten. You can't do that on your own. There's no way. And but most people, they try to do everything by themselves. I'm not that person. No, you have to collaborate with the people that get it. And then you just grow, and then it'll create more collaborations.
And it's putting yourself out there, treating people with respect, asking for help, valuing feedback. And it's actually a nice tie into strategy number 12, Because in strategy number 12, again, it sounds so simple, but it really isn't. And most people don't do this. And strategy number 12, you say, you never know where your next clients will come from. Treat every meeting, phone call, and opportunity as important. And how true that is. We've all heard this really advice done in different ways of you just can't judge people of where they are right now or what they're wearing or what they look like or what they're doing. But Justin, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts behind strategy number 12.
Yes, I wear the same shirt and shorts every day, so nobody's hiring me for. That's what I look. It's funny because it's starting to get colder in Chicago, so I wear shorts, 20 degrees, and they're like, "Why are you wearing shorts?" I don't want to think about what I have to wear. So the people that dress up and stuff, that's glitz over whatever actual results. But the point is, and this actually applies way differently to starting a company in the first 2 years and then what it is now, because first 2 years you're just throwing bleep at the wall and seeing what sticks. And so you talk to 1 million people and then, maybe one will be the one out of 1,000 that says yes. You just don't know. So there's that. You just talk to as many people as you can and then you see what happens. I don't recommend doing that strategy after a while. The 0.1% of people saying yes is probably not the most effective number to shoot for. But then now there's no agenda talking to anyone now because it's people who give to give. They give to the people who get it. So there's no agenda now. But what happens is now you'll really start to see a mindset match with the right people, like people like you. There's an incredible mindset match. And so then all these great opportunities come from it. So I didn't know when we first talked that this would lead to multiple podcast interviews. And you introduced me to some great folks who became partners. And then I've introduced you to great folks who will be on your show or have been on your show. And that will just keep going and go. I didn't know that, but I had a feeling because we're getting connected by the right people that it could lead to something great. But the point is when something great does occur or could occur from it, then you go, let's do that. So that's the whole point. You have the great first conversation and then it leads to other great conversations. And because my follow through is much higher than most entrepreneurs, I'll actually follow through and okay, let's activate that. Let's do that. Great. That's the point.
And speaking of helping, this really is all about strategy number 13. And strategy number 13, let me preface it by saying this. When I read strategy number 13 for the listeners, it's going to seem counterintuitive because the very first strategy that we spoke about was prioritize family time over work time. So we have a limited amount of time to make ourselves available in the business. But in strategy number 13, you say if someone asks for help, always help them. You didn't say sometimes help them or see what you can do to help them. Always help them. So Justin, what's behind that? Always help them. What's the thinking there?
Someone's genuinely asking for help and it's not taking advantage of you. You know what I mean by that. Then you help them. You find out a way or connect them to someone who can help them. When you start a company, basically all you're doing is asking for help. You're getting to get. And then if you don't send the ladder back down to people who are genuinely asking for help and they're the people who will get it, then you're not continuing the entrepreneur world circle. You're just not doing that. Now, there is a difference. There's a difference between that and then people trying to take advantage of your time, take advantage of your expertise, trying to get stuff for free. There's a very big difference there. But if someone's genuinely asking for help and they have the right intentions, then you help them without exception.
And you make an important distinction. So obviously you're saying, okay, look, if someone's coming, they're trying to take advantage of you, and you can often see that a mile away. That's not what you're talking about, but you're talking about someone who's legitimately asking for help. And Justin, I like what you said. When you start a business, particularly in the first 2 years, you're asking everybody for help. And what a nice way to pay it forward. But it's more than just paying it forward because you're helping somebody, but in a roundabout way, you're helping yourself as well. And perhaps you can share a little bit of your thinking with that with our listeners of what you meant by that when you mentioned that in the chapter.
Well, it feels good to genuinely help someone. I'm dead last on empathy, 34 out of 34. But I'm endlessly empathetic for people that will do whatever it takes to get to this level because I know without exception what it takes to get to this level. Without exception. I still have not met one person at this level that hasn't overcome at least one of those 4 things. So if you do know someone, I would like to meet that person genuinely. And it feels really good to help those people. It just feels really good. It's as simple as that. And I feel very grateful to have this life because my dad died when I was 13. My youngest brother died when he was 29. His IQ was 146. That's less than 0.5% of the population has that. And so I know with a brain like that, what can go wrong. And so I'm very grateful to be around people like you that I can genuinely help. And I know you'll help me as well. And then again, that is how I help society, because I help people like you, and people like you create everything else. And then everyone benefits from that in some capacity. Everyone benefits.
And, when you think about it, you help someone. And there's a saying that goes something like this. I'm not going to get it exactly right, but I'll get it close enough. The teacher often learns more than the student. And so in that process of helping somebody, you're learning some things from there. Maybe you're revisiting some concepts you forgot about, right? And now it's, okay, I remember that. Let me build that back into my ritual or into my routine. I had gone away from that. But you're also paying it forward. And there's no surprise for me on this, because when you're always helping people, that really goes back to the previous strategy number 12, Justin. You never know where your next client will come from. So the person that you're helping today, maybe they'll become your client, or maybe they know who your next client is. And because you've been so generous with them, with your time and with your help, they're now paying it forward, and you give to give, and it all comes around. And helping for the sake of helping it's not easy to do, but as you say in the chapter, it's the right thing to do.
The right thing. And to me, it's the only thing, if I really deconstruct it. And like the number one reason in a practical way why my first company's been successful, and then literally created the second one based on this, but it's because I'm constantly introducing people at the highest level to other people, to other people like that. And then I haven't done outbound sales or gimmicks or any of that nonsense in years. Now I'm just constantly getting intros. I used to quantify it. I don't really quantify it anymore. About a year ago, I quantified it. I probably do 10 life-changing intros every day, and I probably get 1 or 2, maybe 3 every day. Some of them want to hire my firm, but there's no funnels or email mark, and that stuff's fine for people that need it. I'm just not a big fan of that stuff. I'm just creating value for the highest performing people, and then they create value for me. I'm just helping people, and then they're helping me. And again, new companies, literally just technology for that. It's just a shortcut for people like us that just want the connection. They don't want to waste 30 years building relationships. They just want the connection. They'll be the result they need with the right type of mindset person. That's literally all the new company is.
And it's amazing with your new company and with the existing company and all these strategies that they all weave together. They support each other, and it's foundational. It's really a seamless strategy. Absolutely.
It's a unique ability spawning off spider webbing into all these different chapters, whatever book title, whatever, or segments. But it's the same unique ability. It's the same do what you like to do and what you're good at while putting family first.
Absolutely. And there's this saying that success leaves clues, but you have to know where to look and what to ask. And what you've done with these 30 strategies in broad daylight, you've put it all out there for us to follow. And I'm going to ask Justin a rhetorical question for our listeners, because you share this one fact. And for our listeners, here's the question. Successful business owners, 92% of them said that doing this one thing had a direct impact on both the growth and survival of their business. So the rhetorical question is, would you want to do that one thing? And of course, the answer is yes. If 92% of people are saying, hey, this not only kept me in business, but it helped me grow. So what's that one thing? And that one thing is, and this is strategy number 14, and I quote, find at least 2 to 3 good mentors and listen to them.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you. Again, you're like literally plotting out my book better than I did. It's incredible to me. Like that actually blew my mind when I saw that stat, because I'm like, how can you start a company without having a mentor or a coach? If you're a basketball player, you always have a coach. Like anything, you have a coach. And so, but most business owners, they don't have mentors when they start. And it was like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Because again, I get annoyed by things or what people complain about. Oh, I'm not going to do that. But then the people that are successful and they have done that have mentors. Oh, I'll do that. So I've always had mentors right from the beginning of my company. The mentor who said, hey, learn from how horrible you feel right now, and then make sure when you feel this horrible again, it's just part of entrepreneur life. That was a mentor that I've had since the beginning. He's still a very good friend. And one of my other mentors, he's a coach and strategic coach. He's also an Abundance 360 with me. He's like, no, you need to join strategic coach. Okay, I'll do that. Hey, you need to join Abundance 360. Okay, I'll do that. So how can you not have a mentor being an entrepreneur? Because again, it goes back to what we were talking about before. Trying to do this yourself, that's a terrible idea. It's the wrong formula there. So definitely have people. I had zero business background, zero. So need to find people that actually know what they're talking about and then listen to them and actually do something about it. Yep.
And what's interesting about that is, and we like to say this in the Deep Wealth Experience and the 9-step roadmap, as business owners, we do have the answers, but we don't have the questions. And so you don't have the questions, you can't extract the answers, but your mentors, they don't need to know your business inside out. Listen, you're the world's expert on your business. No one's going to know the business better than you. But when you're asked the right question, you can then find the answer for that. And I believe it was Tony Robbins that said, if you want to change your life, change the questions that you're asking. And the mentor will come in and ask the right question, change your perspective, and allow you to go out and just do some terrific things and really make a difference out there. So brilliant, brilliant strategy, Justin, in suggesting finding at least 2 to 3 good mentors.
Well, here's the other interesting thing is that, okay, I'm 44. So I would say my number one mentor is Dan Sullivan. He's the top entrepreneurial coach who's ever lived. So that's a pretty good mentor. He's 77. I'll mention his name, Evan Ryan. So Evan's in AI. He's in Abundance 360, or he was, and then he's also a strategic coach. So Evan's 27 and I'm 44, but I consider Evan a mentor. He's been in the entrepreneur world much longer than I have. And age is meaningless, even though I mentioned it. It's about what you can learn from them and then what you can provide as well. It goes both ways. It's good to provide information as well. But having mentors of all ages is crucial. Life experiences, people with families, people without families. That's important.
And, I'm sure people are saying, okay, Justin, you've sold me on the value of mentors, but where do I find mentors? How do I get access to these people? And in strategy 16, you both have us ask the question and then you answer it, because in strategy 16, you say, join great networking groups with high level people. And strategic coach and provisors are my 2 favorites. And so here you are saying, okay, find your mentors, and you can find your mentors in networking groups and whatever those may be, a strategic coach as an example, or whatever floats your boat, so to speak. But I just love how you put that out there and you answer that. You've mentioned strategic coach a number of times. Why don't you give the audience just a flavor of what that's been like for you and just how that's really changed your world?
Yeah, 99% of the way I live my life is what I've learned in strategic coach members over the last 2+ years. Again, Dan Sullivan, I'm very confident saying he's top entrepreneurial coach who's ever lived. He's been an entrepreneurial coach for almost 50 years, and he's plans to live to 156. So he's about to hit the halfway point of his life. Okay, so that's a pretty good mentor to have. So just to land the plane, at the level I'm at, it's $25K a year US dollars to be in that. I'd easily invest $50K a year. Easily. Why? Because I'm usually the dumbest person in the room. And if I'm not the dumbest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. And without exception, everyone in that room has been entrepreneur much longer than I have. They've seen the ups and downs. They're all at the level I'm at. They're all visionaries. They're all living in abundance. They all look at things as investments, not costs. So I need to be in a room like that, or otherwise I get bored. And again, that's how I found my business partner virtually. He's in Strategic Coach 10X with me. He's in San Francisco. The only time I've met him in person was at the giant launch party we threw for the new company. Other than that, we've met virtually in a Zoom room, and we've had our weekly meetings on Zoom or on the phone. When you're in a room with people like that, you become someone like that. So if you're hanging out with people like that, you become someone like that, period. And then you just rise together. You don't compete against each other. You rise together and collaborate with each other.
Yeah, again, it all goes back to what we spoke about of who you're hanging out with, who are you spending time with? And when you elevate the quality, you're elevating yourself as well. And so strategy number 16 takes on a little bit of a different flow here, but it really, when it comes to the cycle of life, the cycle of business, it's so spot on. And strategy number 16, you're saying, be patient. Things take time. The business cycle can be slow, especially with larger companies.
It's the hardest. I work on my patience. It's the hardest thing. Again, my top 3 strength finders are activate, maximize, achieve. So activators, Ken Gallup, Clifton Strength Finders, is when can we get started? When can we get started? When can we get started? Waiting for me is, again, as a journalist, deadline, 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 deadline. And that was my entire life before starting first company. And for the most part, entrepreneurial world doesn't work like that, especially with larger companies that take forever to slog through. 15 people need to look at this contract before they sign it. That's why I don't partner with a lot of major companies anymore, because it just takes too long. But if you cannot be patient in this world, it will destroy you, because it is a long game. It's a long game. Now, the interesting thing about that is, again, it takes 2 full years to figure things out. I'm almost at the 5-year mark now. And I'm very excited about that, because at the 5-year mark, a lot of these bigger companies, they're waiting around to see who makes it to the 5-year mark. and then they pull the trigger. They wait 5 years to even pull the trigger. And then there's some that wait 10 years to pull the trigger. And even with new company, just starting that, it's been almost a full year since I first hatched this idea. And now we have an LLC, the platform's almost done. We have people ready to sign up. We threw a launch party, but it didn't happen in 2 weeks. It's taken almost a full year really to get it going. And then once it gets going, it'll just take care of itself. But being patient and playing the long game, it's essential. It's not important. It's essential in this world.
And what's nice about that, Justin, how really everything ties together and gels so nicely. Play the long game, but you're loving what you're doing. You're passionate about that. And so that passion is going to get you through the times where you need your grit just to work through some of those challenging issues. As I like to say, our success is around the corner and it's waiting for us, but we're not ready for it. And it's that journey that puts us through those challenging times. That's what really puts us into a position where we can welcome the success. So when you're patient, as you're saying, knowing that things take time, it's not going to be as quick as you want, enjoy the journey because it's happening as it should happen, when it's going to happen and how it's going to happen. That's already in place for you. And just enjoy the journey, become the better person, become the better business, and welcome that future success down the road that's waiting for you.
And again, for me, this is the number one hardest thing by far. There's not even a close second. This is the hardest thing for me to do. There's a test called the PRINT test, PRINT. It's your unconscious motivators. So I'm in 8-3 at the top level of strategic coach, which is called free zone. That one is $50K a year. I was talking to one of the folks in coach and she said, most of the folks in free zone are 8-3s like me or 3-8s. So 8 is to be strong and self-reliant. 3 is to succeed and achieve. So there's no overthinking. There's no feeling anything. There's result. There's go for it. So anyway, some of the shadow behaviors, the self-destruction behaviors for 8-3s, I'll just read some of these because this is what I work on every day. I'm always trying to learn. Impatient, poor timing, aggressive, bossy, outspoken. Let's see if these other ones that have to do with timing. Insensitive, too tough. So all of these have to do with not being patient. Now, a lot of great things about being 8-3s, like you can create 2 global companies with zero business background. You can partner with people like you. Try and slow down as much as possible to be as patient as possible because this is a long game. It is. It just is.
It's a long game. And as the saying goes, do what's right, not what's easy. And Justin, you made it clear, patience is not easy for you, but it's the right thing. So you have the discipline to do that.
Here's what I mean. So you could have sold your company for much less, but you waited, you played the long game, and then 9 figures paid off. But you played the long game and you were patient. And I'm sure, by the way, you can tell me, but I'm sure it was tough not to accept first offer. Maybe it wasn't for you, but I'm sure there was some thought like, oh man, but you waited it out. And now you're teaching people how to wait it out, which is okay. And you're using what you learned to help other people.
Yeah, no, for sure. Listen, everyone's human and you have that temptation for the instant gratification. It's here, it's right now. Tomorrow is a risk. But again, Justin, what we've been speaking about, when you're passionate about what you're doing, so your work is play, your play is work, you value yourself, you've raised your rates because you're worth it. You know, there's better things ahead for you. And it's just having that patience and building up to the point where you can really extract that value. And what's interesting is, speaking of extracting the value, in strategy number 17, it's really, for me, at the heart of being an entrepreneur, because most people say the heart of being an entrepreneur is being successful and helping people. Yes, but the other part of it is giving back. And strategy number 17, you say, give back, start a scholarship fund, help the community, and do something to pay it forward. And so many people talk about it, but nothing happens.
Yeah, talk is meaningless without execution.
And even before we got to the strategy, you were sharing a little bit earlier, you were doing your 10-year vision and you're talking about all these scholarships that you're going to be setting up.
That wasn't done when I was writing the book. I have scholarship funds for current company, but there wasn't a foundation to help. There wasn't that, but now there will be, because I'll do it. I say it, do it. With my Colby, I have high quick start, high follow through. So I just say it, do it, say it, do it, say it, do it. So whether it takes 10 years to do it, because I'm playing the long game, but it'll get done. It'll get done. And that's the best part about being an entrepreneur, is that I get to teach my children that this world even exists, and then they can do what they want with it. And they can learn from that, become masters of it if they want, and then do whatever they want with that, because most people don't even know this world exists. And then I can just pay it forward. I've already changed my world, their world, that their world is art. Now I'm just trying to change the world. That's it. No, there is done. doing the world now. That's how I changed the world.
And paying it forward, it really comes full circle. You don't know who you're helping, but the people that you help, and you're not doing it for these reasons. You're helping just for the sake of helping, but they're going to be changing lives and they're going to be making a difference. They're going to be changing, as I like to say, the social fabric of society. And so it just all comes around. Everyone has to start somewhere. And speaking of starting somewhere, in strategy number 18, it's a little bit out there, but you say it's okay to do crazy things like jumping out of an airplane. And Justin, you're brave. I don't know if I would have done this because you said at the 2-year anniversary of BREPIC, you wanted to see what it would be like to jump out of an airplane, not knowing if the parachute was going to open, to see if it felt like building a business. So how was that for you? And what was running through your mind when you jumped out of that plane and you're in that free fall for that short little bit?
Yeah, again, I don't believe in randomness. So I just got a message from someone who just reached out to me. I have no idea who this person is, but I do know he's a very high level entrepreneur. And he just messaged me, hey, love the skydiving pic. That would have been fun.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Talk about synchronicity.
I'm sure that happens to you all the time. That happens to me 3 or 4 times a day. So I don't believe in randomness. So, when I started the company, I can't tell you how many people said that entrepreneur life is like jumping out of an airplane and you don't know if the parachute's going to open. Oh, okay. Entrepreneur life, I know the parachute's going to open. Now I'll jump out of an actual plane and see if the parachute's going to open. Now, as you said, it's out there. And at the time, my kids were really young. And if the photo that this person was just mentioning, I was actually not wearing a helmet. For some reason, the instructor had a helmet on. They didn't put a helmet on me. I don't know why they didn't do that, which is funny. But let me tell you, the feeling of jumping out of an airplane, and I hate heights, it's a very similar feeling. Like you open that door and you look down and it's 15,000 feet. And then I just looked up and then the instructor jumped and went out and it was really amazing free falling. And hey, the parachute opened and then hit the ground and okay, feels great. And the photo's been on my social media platforms for 2 years now. And just got a message. Love the skydiving pic. And, by the way, I'll take that forward. My 5-year vision board, the next 5 years is to swim with great white sharks in a cage, by the way. And sharks terrify me, but I'm going to do it in a cage. So yeah, that's the 5-year.
You're one brave soul, Justin. Former reporter, now entrepreneur, but brave soul all the way through. Hats off to you on that. Now, but speaking of living that kind of life, in strategy number 19, and this really goes back to, it's a nice tie into the first strategy, prioritize family time over work time. In strategy number 19, you're saying be a great example for your children. Show them the amazing life that they can have by being an entrepreneur and what hard work can lead to. Wow, that says so much and so little.
Yeah. So my sons, again, best part of being an entrepreneur is my sons, they're 9 and 7 currently. They get to see this. We talk about simplifier versus multiplier, and we talk about raising rates exponentially. We talk about how great this new company is going to be. That's what we talk about. They've both started companies already, little ones, obviously, but a little garage sale type things and selling things to the neighbors. But whatever they do with that, it's fine. But at least they know this world exists. 99.9% of the world doesn't even know this world exists. Business owners can teach their children about owning a business. But entrepreneurs like this, very rare. We had David Sinclair. He's the top Harvard geneticist. He's on the cover of Time magazine. So he's creating the technology that allow people to live 200, 300, maybe forever, 300 years old. And so my sons were just sitting on my lap watching that as he was talking during Abundance 360. They're like, is that really happening? Oh, yeah, that's what's coming down the pipeline. So, I mean, that's the best part of being an entrepreneur. That's the greatest thing ever. That's the greatest gift as a dad that I can provide.
So powerful. And there's this saying that when you're raising your children, you're also raising your grandchildren in terms of, the rituals that you create and the skill sets that you're providing to them and just putting them on the right path and making sure that they're getting the right time and love that they need.
Yeah, that's a good point. And here's what it makes me, because my dad was 61 when I was born. So he'd be 105 if he was alive now. I should be like late 70s. That's why I like Dan Sullivan so much. He reminds me of my dad. He's just this wisdom, just endless wisdom. No one ever says a bad word about him. No one ever said a bad word about my dad. And I kind of skipped a generation in some capacity. So I have this old man wisdom and 44-year-old body with childish mindset of like a 5-year-old. I'm like a child. I have no maturity at all. I almost think like a grandfatherly wisdom person with my children, and then I act like a child with them. And then I guess I'm like a dad, like go to school, that kind of stuff. But I just play with my kids like a grandfather would play with his kids. And like my dad was like, he was like a kid playing with us. So that's an interesting thing you said there.
It's interesting that you mentioned your dad, and I know you referenced him earlier and is actually waiting right at this point. So it's perfect timing, Justin, to have you talk about your dad, because In Strategy 20, it's really from the heart. And you say it's so boldly and really how life should be. I think we have it backwards. And so for the audience, let me share what Strategy 20 is. It's think about the people who have impacted you and thank them before it's too late. And Justin, before you talk about your dad and what that meant for you, and how many times, and we've all been there, where unfortunately we're at a funeral and you're hearing these beautiful eulogies that the person who passed away probably never heard those beautiful, wonderful words. And it's too late because they're not going to hear it now. And why can't we say it beforehand when they're healthy and when things are terrific? And so this is a wonderful strategy, both for business, but also for life. And so talk to us a little bit about that, because I know your dad, both when he was living and in his passing, just plays such an instrumental and huge role in your life.
Yeah, one of the chapters in my next book will be The Cream Rises to the Top. I was 5 to when he died when I was 13. So 8 years, pretty much every day, he would say the cream rises to the top. The cream that rises to the top are the ones that'll do whatever it takes to rise to the top. Okay, so that just makes sense. And that's why I'm so close to my children, because I know what it's like not to have a dad. I just know what that's like. Where, one day my dad drove me to school in the morning, 8th grade, and then you get the call that he had a heart attack. It was in the morning, so it was in the first class or two. And then you go to the hospital and you see him barely alive in the hospital. He stayed alive just to say goodbye to us, basically, because he's a survivor. And then you don't see him ever again. And so I know that's what I mean. I'll never let entrepreneur life destroy my family life. I know what it's like to not have that around. And to have a father like that who came from nothing. I don't know if I told you about this in our last interview, but he came from nothing, shot down 8 times in combat, World War II hero, became an attorney in the Nuremberg trials. And his diary, did I tell you about his diary? Did I talk to you about that?
You did, but it's so powerful. Share it again, please.
Yeah, so the diary is my most cherished possession. He wrote it during the Battle of the Hurricane Forest, and very deadly battle. My book is like his diary. His diary's better. And yeah, I found that diary after he died, and I like looking at it. Because it's just this incredible connection. And all the success, I'm very thankful for it. And just started this entrepreneur journey. I'm very thankful for it. But I will never stop, ever, because I'm not going to mess it up for my dad. He went through too much in his life, and my mom too. Yeah, so she was 27 when I was born. I've never met anyone in my life with more hustle than my mom ever. Never. So that I'm the combination of my dad and my mom. And, I'm just not going to mess it up. I'll never stop. And I'll never stop trying to be a good dad for my children, no matter how old they are.
It's a beautiful tribute to your father, who really helped set you up both while he was living and in his passing, and through his diary, with his bravery, being a war hero, and his actions, which spoke louder than words, that really put you in the right direction to get you to where you are today. And with that in mind, where you're saying, let's not forget about the people who have helped us, and we should thank them before it's too late. But then you come out with another zinger, Strategy 21. And this applies to every business owner. And I put myself in this camp as well. And you say, celebrate successes and appreciate what you've built. Because most of us, I know the top of one mountain is the base of the next one. And we just keep on going and we don't celebrate.
This is what I mean. So I hear people, you complain about it. Oh, I'm not going to be like that. Things that annoy them. I'm not going to be like that. I'm constantly celebrating stuff. So I hear people complaining about this. And so what do? I do the opposite of that, because I'm an outlier of outliers. And so pre-COVID, throw parties all the time for clients to have all these cool things. And then had a giant launch party for new company, had a top cover band in the Midwest. It was at Chicago Yacht Club, because why wouldn't you do that? It's a good investment and it's fun. So that's the business celebrations. Every single Wednesday, I have lunch with my wife. So that's a good celebration. Every 6th weekend, and this one's coming up, my wife and I go somewhere by ourselves without the kids and go somewhere fun. Why wouldn't you do that? I don't understand not celebrating. And again, I'm an activator, so I just get stuff done. But why wouldn't you celebrate all these cool things and do fun stuff? You have the capital to do it. Why not spend it?
Justin, you're so right with that. And for our listeners, I hope you picked up on this, because I know you're saying, okay, yeah, that sounds good, but I'm not going to find the time, or how to remember, or what do I do? But Justin, I love what you've done, because you're doing 2 things. You're celebrating your successes, but you made a ritual.
I love how you say ritual, by the way, because I'm patterns and habits, you're rituals, but we're just the same. We're the same. okay, it's done. So every Sunday night, my wife and I talk about what we're doing. We plan our week every Sunday. Every morning, I do a grateful journal to my wife. So first thing I do every day, what I'm grateful for her the previous day. Every morning, 6 to 8 days a week, I run outside, no matter the weather condition. Every Monday through Saturday. I don't do it on Sundays just to take a break. And then I do a grateful journal on LinkedIn every Monday through Friday because you just do it. You just create the ritual and then you just follow through and do it. And that's the same thing with celebrations. I just, okay, have a celebration with my family or do a great party. Oh, I'll give you another one. The next time I'm going to see my business partner, when we get to a certain membership level, number of people with the new company, my wife and I are flying out to San Francisco because that's where Mark is. And we're going to French Laundry with Mark and his wife. French Laundry, one of the top restaurants in the world. We'll just do it.
What a celebration.
That's a good one.
It's not a good one. It's a great one. And when you put that as a ritual, you don't have to remember. You just know. So every Wednesday or every 6 weeks when you're traveling or when the business hits a milestone, you're going to be able to find, I call them magic moments. And you're going to be able to find those magic moments because you're taking time out, time slows down. And what's also really nice that the ritual that you've created with your wife is you're including her not just in your personal life, but in your business life. And that really goes back to the first strategy, prioritize family time over work time.
Yeah, this is hilarious. So here's my acknowledgement. Did you see the acknowledgements in my book? So most people have these like 50 paragraph acknowledgements. Here's my entire acknowledgement to my wife who has given me a wonderful life in every way imaginable. That's it. Without her, I'm in a ditch.
I have a friend, Justin, who says the challenge for most entrepreneurs, whether you're female or male, you're going out and you're slaying those dragons, but you're not letting your significant other know what you're doing, why you're doing it, but you are. And when you include your significant other, in this case, it's your wife, it just brings a whole other level to you, to your personal relationship, to the business relationship, and takes it to the next level. And it's a wonderful ritual, as I like to say, that you've built into your life. And if I can use a business term on a personal ritual, the ROI that you're getting from that is just over the top.
Yeah, everything else follows with that. And again, if you don't have a good family life, then all this other stuff is meaningless. I just finished, I think it's called the 5 love languages. Yeah. So my wife's language is, I don't remember the exact term, but like she likes to hear nice things. So I know that now. And I'm a high fact finder. So once I know the answer, I'll just do it. So now I'm constantly like the grateful journal to her is one example of that. And then I send it to her every now and then so she can read it. But now I'm constantly saying, thank you, love you, like constantly messaging because for her, that's the number one important language.
You're filling up her love tank, as they say. And you know what? Whoever said business isn't personal, never been in business. And business is personal, but the personal starts at the family. And when you got the family right, then everything else falls into place because you're feeling terrific on the inside and you're just able to go out there and do those amazing things. And that's going to help for strategy number 22, because when you're feeling great on the inside, you're saying learn from tough times, bad clients or deals that have gone under the last minute. It's just part of business. And how true that is, but how frustrating and painful that can be. And so, Justin, you put that in there. And I think it's appropriate that you put it where you put it as strategy number 22, because you've built a foundation to have us be able to deal with that. But what were some of the thoughts running through your mind at that time when you put this together?
Well, one, certainly in terms of more money doesn't equal more happiness, but actually most money led to most unhappiness, which was interesting. But time vampires, people that talk and never do anything about it. Oh, okay, I'm not dealing with that anymore. The power of saying no. I say no to people all the time when it's the wrong fit and they're not genuinely asking for help, when they're not one of those people. Oh, no, I'm not wasting my time with that. And again, when you learn something, then you need to do something about what you've learned. You don't just make the same mistake twice. You just, okay, I'm not doing that again. And whether that's your own mental health or saying no to the wrong people or eliminating people that just don't match your mindset, then you just learn from that. And then you activate that learning.
And it goes back to always be learning, always be curious, not standing still. So we're not going to let our success become the seeds of our future failure. And so the tough times will lead to better times. And I just love how you put that in there and you're just always looking back so you can look forward. Speaking of looking forward, in strategy number 23, you say building relationships is a lot like farming because it's about planting seeds and waiting for things to grow, which I know for you, Justin, on the patience side must be a little bit of a challenge, but again, it's the right thing to do. And so what should our listeners know about strategy 23 in terms of building relationships?
So it's fascinating to me what has happened. So again, most of the conversations I have now are with people like you. And it's fascinating because you just plant the seed, plant the seed, plant the seed. And then, 4 months down the line, hey, I have this great intro for you. These people need your help. Or, hey, these people need this type of connection. Or, hey, I was just thinking about you. Would love to touch base and have you chime in and just see what I'm up to. And so I'm just constantly planting seeds. And what's happened is, since, again, full circle, put everything together, since rates have raised, joining higher level groups, the seeds that have been planted, I think a year ago, I posted, I've been planting all these seeds with these amazing people. Can't wait to see what it leads to. And one of the things it led to is new company, also second book, also record profit this year, all these amazing things. So when you just keep planting seeds, it's just endless fruit. So what's the result of that? Record profit total. Haven't done outbound sales in years. No marketing gimmicks. Spend as much time with my family as I want to. Creating second company. This magazine recently interviewed me about the new company. And so this magazine has 2,000 subscribers. Of those 2,000 subscribers, most of them are 50 million. And I don't care about this at all, but most people do. They're 50 million revenue or more. But that would have never happened. This never would have happened if I hadn't planted seeds a year ago or 2 years ago or 4 years ago. And I'll give you another really interesting pattern that I've seen. So going back to this network, the first group I joined was maybe $200, and there was a $500 one, and there was a $2,000 one, and there was a $5,000 one, then there was a $10,000, then there was a $25,000, then there was another $25,000. So the two I'm in now, Strategic Coach and Abundance 360, they're about $25,000 each. I would easily invest $50K in each of those. Okay, it started with the planting the seeds in the 200, and then 1 out of 1,000 of those would introduce me to a 500. Then the 500 introduced me to a 2,000. And 2,000 introduced me to a 5,000. But all of these, whether there was 200 or whether it was 25,000, and I'm sure I'll join a 50K or maybe 100K eventually, maybe a million K, whatever it is, a million K. That would be interesting. But it's all an investment in finding the right people. And I have found, to simplify my simplification of patterns, is that bigger investments are in smaller room with more impact. So bigger investment, smaller room, bigger impact. And that allows me to make the biggest investment in the smallest room, my family, where I make the most impact. So bigger investment, bigger impact leads to the biggest investment in the smallest room, my family, where I can make the most impact.
And if you think about it, Justin, and that's amazing, because number one, you're investing in yourself, which translates to your business, which lets you spend more time with your family.
Dude, you are the greatest simplifier ever. You're a simplifier of simplification, which, by the way, that's how I am too. The really good entrepreneurs, most of them, not all of them, but most of them are simplifiers like us, because they take all this complexity and they simplify it. I always talk to simplifiers like you because you simplify my simplification. And now I'm going to try and simplify your simplification. So just make it simpler and simpler.
I love it. We're going to have a riff of simplification, and it goes back to hanging out with the right people who play off of your strengths.
I know. It's fascinating. And I know this is the case with you. You never get tired of trying to simplify something because you can just see the patterns. And so really, I never expected this. But again, learning from one of my mentors, he's like, your unique ability isn't necessarily PR, which at the time, I'm like, I'm just really good at PR, which I am. But he's no, you're going to find that it's actually different than that. And really what I'm really best at, and I think you are too, by the way, is you can take all these complex things and immediately simplify it and then activate it. And that's really what it's simplifying complex issues and activating it. That's really my unique ability.
That is your superpower in addition to being a connector. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of that and how we enable that, Strategy 24, it's so simple, but it's so not obvious. And for most business owners, and I see this all the time, Justin, in the Deep Wealth experience, it's one of my favorite questions to ask. But before I get there, let me share what Strategy 24 is. Don't try to do everything yourself. It's a recipe for failure, right? And how many business owners, the business revolves around them. They are the sun, the moon, the stars, and the business doesn't run without them. And you share a wonderful story of how you went about to find an assistant, a virtual assistant for you, so you can begin to stop working on the detailed nitty-gritty things that you shouldn't have been doing, so you can work on the business instead of in the business. But walk us through that of not doing everything yourself.
Well, there's only so much time. And if you're doing everything yourself, you're going to run out of time from growing something much bigger. And in first 2 years of company, I never would have had the time to even think about starting a second company. That just would have been impossible. But now, because I have all this time and have eliminated all the nonsense and attracted greatness, I have all this time to have a new company with a business partner that I'd never met in person until our launch party. And part of that's having an assistant. Part of that is certainly what's happened with Zoom. Calendly, as simple as that is, I don't know why everyone isn't using Calendly. That's the greatest thing ever. And it's just saved so much time. All I'm always trying to do, again, we just talked about that, is to simplify everything. So I'm doing basically nothing that I'm not good at or I don't like to do. So pretty much 100% of my day is doing what I like to do and what I'm good at. There's really no wasted time in anything that I don't like to do and I'm not exceptionally good at.
And Justin, I know you said you didn't plan it this way with the strategies or the chapters in the book, that it just landed the way they are, because when you do what you suggest in Strategy 24, you recognize, hey, I can't do everything myself. Let me get some help with it. That is such a tie into number 25. So Strategy 25, some of the best ideas come during early morning workouts or runs, which you probably wouldn't have had the time to do if you tried to do everything yourself. So one really plays off the other. And we've all been there where you're thinking about something completely different, nothing business related. And then you get this one idea that it's a game changer. It's a market disruptor. It'll take your business to the next level.
Fascinating conversation. So on Strength Finders, I'm 32 out of 34 in ideation. So almost dead last. But if I have a good idea, a really good one, or someone tells me, then it gets done. So the actual ideas that I've had, the good ones, without exception, come during my early morning runs, because it's the one time where I'm not focused on talking to someone or with my family. And that's, by the way, I love talking to people and I love being with my family, but it's the one time where I'm really by myself and I get into a flow and a good rhythm of breathing. And then I'm listening to great podcasts like these. And whether it's been writing the book, or I'm like, oh, I'm going to write a book, first book, or the second book, or starting a new company, or raising rates exponentially, every one of those ideas has come during the run. And if the ideas have come during the run, they've been cemented during the run, because I'm not near my computer. I'm not near my house. There's no meeting happening then. It's just my free time. And then when you really get your heart rate going and your lungs breathing and you're looking around, I run outside. You're aware of your surroundings. And that's when ideas pop into my head. The limited ones that do, but they're good ones.
It just takes one idea, Justin, to really change the world. As you know, and now you've had two. What's interesting is when you're doing your run or you're just having some of that alone time and you're thinking, for strategy number 26, which is the next one, it's the feeling of hearing one yes far outweighs the feeling of hearing 20 no's. In your case, Justin, we can say that the feeling of hearing one yes far outweighs the feeling of hearing 1,000 no's. Talk to us about that, because this is now a mental game that you're talking about here. And it's such an important one that we tend to overlook.
Well, here's an interesting thing too, is that I'm very grateful. Company's very successful. There's still more no's than yes. There just are, because it's not the right time or whatever. But from going to 1,000 no's for one yes to maybe 5 no's to one yes, the feeling of a yes is still unbelievable, because for two reasons. One, yeses allow me to spend more time with my family, because people who make the investment allow me to spend more time with my family. But two, I'm so grateful because the people that say yes are just allowing me to be in the purpose of my life. They're just allowing me to do what I'm supposed to be doing. And like, you're investing in what my brain does and what my companies do to what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm very grateful for that. Very grateful for that. And that's a great feeling. Oh, wait a minute. You're allowing me to do what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to be doing for everyone, because they're not going to make the investment. But if you make the investment and you allow me to do what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm very grateful for that. And, oh, wow, now you're just allowing me to do cooler and cooler things with first company, with next company, to spend more time with my family. So that's a good feeling. That's a really good feeling. And then, yes, people introduce me to more yes. And then, oh, bro.
And going back to what we said earlier, with the yes, you can create a ritual, perhaps, that you can celebrate. And the list just goes on of just appreciating what you're doing. Exactly. From celebration and just that terrific feeling of a yes, it ties nicely into number 27. So strategy 27 says that confidence is a great thing and an awesome attractor to other confident people. And hearing a yes, that you got some more business, that builds up your confidence. And you're right, your inner world really creates your outer world, and what you're thinking, feeling, what you're projecting out to the world. You're going to attract those types of people thinking and feeling the same thoughts as you. So what's been your experience, Justin? You're dealing with the 0.1% of successful business entrepreneurs, business owners out there. Talk to us about confidence. What should we be doing on the confidence front to make ourselves better people, better business owners, better family people?
Yeah, so cost versus investment is as important as confidence versus arrogance. So arrogant people think I'm arrogant. Confident people know I'm confident. Arrogant people think that they're great at everything. I'm basically useless to society besides being a great dad, husband, and then, what my unique ability is. But at those things, incredibly confident. And confidence attracts confident people and it repels arrogant people. It repels it, which is great because I do not like arrogant people. And arrogant people don't like me. One of the chapters in my next book will be high performers don't like average people and average lazy people don't like high performers. And so Nick Saban, who's the head coach at Alabama's football team, said that during a news conference. Well, that's a good idea for a chapter in the book. So I'm going to write about that. But confidence just attracts confidence. That's all it does. And confident people know when someone who's confident knows what they're doing and will get them results. And so all it does is attract confidence and just creates value for people who want value created.
And you know what's amazing with confidence, because confidence is a segue actually to strategy 28, because with confidence comes internal happiness. But strategy 28 says making more money doesn't equate to more happiness. And Justin, you're beyond right on that. Listen, money makes life easier, but it cannot ever buy happiness.
Correct. So for me, it can't buy happiness. It allows me to do cool things with my family, which that does make me happy. But I can't tell you, certainly when I first started, I would talk to a lot of wealthy people. And then I'd always ask them, because I like to learn, so how's your family? And many times, not all the time, but many times, they'd say, oh, I never had a family or I never saw my family because of my company. And I'll tell you, the look on their face in a real room, or it was on Zoom, you could just hear the pain, because without family, all this is meaningless. So I see that, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be like that. And then again, end of 2018, made more money than I'd ever thought possible in my life. I'd never been more miserable in my life. Okay, make more money. Couldn't have been more unhappy. It was the most miserable I've ever been. So 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. So I'm like, okay, learn from that. So, and again, now company had massive record profits, way more than I had made in 2018, which I'm very grateful for, but it doesn't make me any happier. It just allows me to have more freedom to build second company and spend more time with my family, which that does make me happier. That's what it does. Again, it's learning from what happened and doing something about it. Same formula.
Couldn't agree more. And my personal thesis, and it actually goes way back to the beginning when we're talking about some of the earlier strategies of just being passionate and enjoying what you're doing. And so my personal thesis is when you chase your passion and you don't chase the money will follow. Chase your passion, the money follows. Chase the money and success usually doesn't follow. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, chasing money might get you more money, but it's not going to create more passion. It's just not.
And the passion leads to happiness and fulfillment. That's a whole other podcast. And, perhaps we'll do that at one point. But speaking of this podcast, as we go to strategy 29, we're in the home stretch here on the second to last one. And I love it because you took a very common concept, but you put a little twist. And so strategy 29, being lucky is part of success, but you have to put yourself in the position to be lucky. Love it. You tell a story of how you like to get to a meeting at least 15 minutes early, that if you're on time, you're at least 15 minutes late, and how you've changed your life in a way that you position yourself to be lucky. So what's that all about for our listeners who are saying, hey, Justin, how do you position yourself to be lucky? What are you doing?
You're endlessly planting seeds. So Allstate was my company's first big client. I was like 4 months into having a company with zero business background and Allstate signed with my firm. How did that happen? Okay, so that didn't just magically happen. So Allstate wanted me to be a judge because at the time I had a giant I still do, but at the time I had a big social media following and I guess was considered an influencer and had written a lot of positive inspirational stories on cool people doing cool things. By the way, my firm still does that, but they didn't even know I had a PR firm. They wanted me to be a judge because I had a high level of social media followers and I thought I could promote it. So I'm like, I can't be a judge because I'm busy at this day. However, happy to meet with you just to tell you what I'm up to. Okay. And they're like, wait, you're doing this? Yeah. Okay. So a couple months later, they signed with my firm. But the point is that I put myself in the position to get that. At the time, that was by far the biggest client. And by creating a social media following over the previous 20 years as a journalist, writing positive, inspirational stories, not being available for the judging, but being available to make myself available for a meeting. And then, here we are. So certainly that's lucky, but that luck is only part of it. I was put myself in position to be lucky.
When you talk about luck, you may have some people say luck, randomness, but earlier you said, hey, there is no randomness. And I agree with you. And it's actually a nice way to wrap this up because strategy number 30, you say, if you have a clear vision for a bigger and brighter future, it'll happen. And you're thinking of the big picture, you're feeling it, you're internalizing it. You're actually projecting that out there, and quantum physics and the field, the universe, whatever you want to call it, that's your luck. But because you've already planned it, you've thought of it, you've imagined it, you've dreamed it. And so talk to us as we wrap up these 30 incredible, powerful strategies for both business and life. When you're thinking about a vision for a bigger and brighter future, what are the kinds of thoughts that go through your mind, Justin, in terms of planning that out?
I'll tell you, I need to talk to the author of this book. Sometimes I'm like, did I really write that? But I guess I did. But one, I'm so grateful because you're Breen, man. You're some type of visionary. That's a compliment at the highest level. But, when I wrote that, I think I finished it like in January of 2020, right after the new year. And having the bigger, better future is even more applicable now because my future is so much bigger and so much better than what it was when I wrote that. And that's really interesting to look back, to know where I came from, to know where I am now, but then to know where I'm going. Where I'm going now is so much bigger than I've ever could have even possibly dreamed 2 years ago when I wrote it. But now it just makes perfect sense because I wrote it then, and now the future now is way bigger than it was then. And what I'm living now is way bigger than it was then. And then it'll be even bigger a year from now, 2 years. It'll just keep getting bigger and bigger because, again, raising rates exponentially, spending more time with family, creating technology for my brain, hanging out with cooler and cooler people, joining better and better groups. Of course, the byproduct of all of that is things are going to get better and better. That's just a byproduct of all these 30 steps that were applicable then. They're applicable now. They'll be applicable in 2 years, 5 years. All these steps will be applicable forever. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, they will be.
And what's amazing, Justin, is when you go back to the beginning, strategy number 1, prioritize family time over work time. And you fast forward to strategy number 30, where if you have a clear vision for a bigger and brighter future, they all feed into each other and they actually create a very positive feedback loop. So when you're doing the 29 strategies, strategy number 30 is just a natural outcome of what's going to happen. You're constantly upgrading your life and your future and your outlook on things, that it wraps it up and it ties everything so nicely together. Is just powerful. And again, from your own personal experiences, from the 0.1% of successful entrepreneurs, it doesn't get any better. You've distilled it down to all you need to know in as few words as possible in your epic writing style.
So, right, I'm an activator. I just messaged you. So since the book came out, I worked on the second list, and I just released the second list, which will be the chapters in my next book. I'll pare it down. And for the people that came up with the ideas, I actually cited who they are. There, I just activated the future. There you go.
I love it. Real time. Wow. I never imagined going into it, but here it happened because we're just talking, we're riffing off each other, we're simplifying, we're expanding. It's terrific. And so for our listeners, this is Justin's book, Epic Business, 30 Secrets to Build Your Business Exponentially and Give You the Freedom to Live the Life That You Want. Justin, I will put everything in the show notes. I'll have a link to your book and a link to our previous episode. And I know I'll put a link in there if people want to reach out to you of how they can get there. Really, you took a large part of your day and you spent time with us here on the Sell My Business podcast. Thank you, Justin. You are a world-class guy and really appreciate your time, your insights, paying it forward, and your sharing.
I can't tell you how grateful I am. This is only the start of this relationship, and it'll keep getting better and better, man. It's just going to keep getting, I'll be fascinating to see how you evolve even in the next year. It'll be really interesting to me.
Thank you. And I'll be checking that out, and I'm sure I'll be ear to ear smiles.
I think it's better than the first one. I really think I'm serious. I think it's better. You'll see. And it's longer too.
I love it. So for our listeners, thank you for your time today in the Sell My Business podcast. So much here for you just to listen and prosper and apply and just pay it forward. And as always, everyone, please stay healthy and safe. And Justin, once again, thank you so much for coming on to the Sell My Business podcast.
The Deep Wealth experience was definitely a game changer for me.
This course is one of the best investments you will ever make, because you will get an ROI of 100 times that. Anybody who doesn't go through it will lose millions.
If you don't have time for this program, you'll never have time for a successful liquidity.
I mean, it was the best value of any business course I've ever taken. The money was very well spent.
Compared to when we first began, today I feel better prepared, but in some respects, maybe less prepared, not because of the course, but because the course brought to light so many things that I thought we were on top of that we need to fix.
I 100% believe there's never a great time for a business owner to allocate extra hours into his or her week or day. So it's an investment that will yield results today. I thought I will reap the benefit of this program in 3 to 5 years down the road. But as soon as I stepped forward into the program, my mind changed immediately.
There was so much value in the experience that the time I invested paid back so much for the energy that was expended.
The Deep Wealth Experience compared to other programs is the top. What we learn is very practical. Sometimes you learn stuff that is great to learn, but you never use it. The stuff we learn from Deep Wealth Experience, I believe it's going to benefit us both.
I've done an executive MBA. I've worked for billion-dollar companies before. I've worked for smaller companies before I started my business. I've been running my business successfully now for getting close to a decade. We're on a growth trajectory. Reflecting back on the Deep Wealth, I knew less than 10% what I know now. Maybe close to 1% even.
Hands down, the best program in which I've ever participated. And we've done a lot of different things over the years. We've been in other mastermind groups, gone to many seminars, workshops, conferences, retreats, read books. This was so different. I haven't had an experience that's anything close to this in all the years that we've been at this. It's 5-star, A+.
I would highly recommend it to any super busy business owner out there. And Deep Wealth is an accurate name for it. This program leads to deeper wealth and happier wealth, not just deeper wealth. I don't think there's a dollar value that could be associated with such an experience and knowledge that could be applied today and forever.
Are you leaving millions on the table? Please visit www.deepwealth.com/success to learn more. If you're not on my email list, you'll want to be. Sign up at www.deepwealth.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode of the Sell My Business podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Reviews help me reach new listeners, grow the show, and continue to create content that you'll enjoy. As we close out this episode, a heartfelt thank you for your time, and as always, please stay healthy and safe.